Greetings and welcome to another edition of What's Holding You Back. My name is Rob McCray for the Business Building Network, and we are so excited to be with you once again for another edition of What's Holding You Back. And we're going to have a jam-packed program for you this evening as we're going to have on our very special guest, and he is none other than Dwayne the Credit Man Reid. So get ready. So he's going to provide all of the solutions that you may need to any of your credit problems and issues that you may be having. So stay tuned, and we're going to bring him out in just a few minutes. But before we do that, we just want to share and invite you and give you greetings and warm welcomes to the program and tell you exactly what this broadcast is all about. And the reason why we come before you every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time is we want to make sure that you are educated and empowered to be the best possible version of yourself. We want to ensure for any of you that are going out there and you want to create a business for yourself, we want to be there to help you, guide you, instruct you, and help you create better results in your business in anything else that you are doing in life. So, with that being said, let us give greetings to our wonderful co host, and she is none other than Christine Allen.
Hello, hello, hello. What's holding you back? I'm going to say absolutely nothing. Full steam ahead. Full steam ahead on this broadcast. I'm excited to hear what our guest speaker is going to say.
Yes,
I'm excited to hear what our audience is going to say. Amen.
right.
Have, Rob, it's such a great feeling on Wednesday at
Mhm.
6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to spend this you time with our viewers. Thanking everybody who subscribed to our channels. The momentum is growing.
Yes.
Yes, yes, and we have some reveals today, don't we?
Yes, yes. So I understand that you received your sweatshirt the other day.
I did. So are we ready to go?
Okay, all
A
right.
let
So
go moment?
before you do it,
Okay.
let us just share that with our audience so they know who these wonderful products and gifts that you're about to unbox for us, where
Mm-hmm.
they're coming from. And they came from another, I guess, a beautiful couple that we had on board with us a couple of weeks ago. And they are the Hatchets. They are Todd and Tashawn Hatchet,
Mm-hmm.
Hardware Inspirational Communications, and they have a beautiful line of clothing and accessories. And Christine is going to share her sweatshirt that she received from them at this time. So, Christine, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I hope everyone can see this awesome package. It is a reusable bag and it says Love God.
Amen. Okay. All right.
Okay. Love one another. Do you see that there?
Yes. Love it. Love it.
Okay. So this is inside the box, and then we're going to look inside.
Hmm.
We have the Godwear advertisement. So
Okay.
kudos to the marketing team.
Wonderful.
Kudos to the marketing team. You see all their merchandise. And then we have this package here. Now, what's inside? Let's see what's
Yes. Let
inside.
us see.
All right, so I'm going to open it up. And first, you have this really nice card. Thank you for your purchase from Godwear. So, thank you for your purchase
Wow, that's
from
nice.
Godwear. They got the QR code
Hmm.
and ready for your next purchase. So, excellent marketing. All right. And you have today's prayer. Now, these folks are intentional about your growth. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much to the team at Godwear. This is a great gift. So, today's prayer, all these blessings will come on you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. Deuteronomy 28 and 2.
Wow, nice. Love that.
Inspirational card.
Hmm.
Oh, wow. We have more gifts, more than you bargained for. All right. So we have a wristband. this wristband.
Very nice, nice.
Yes. This wristband says Romans 12 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And Romans 12 and 2 says, do not conform to the pattern of this world,
Yes.
but be ye transformed by the renewing of your
My,
mind. I think you were talking about that earlier.
amen. Amen. Wow. And yes, Todd and Tashawn are on with us this evening. Greetings and thank you for joining us. And that's
Here's
the
the back
back
of
of the
the
shirt.
shirt.
Wow.
Excellent. And bam!
Ooh.
It says, Dear God,
Uh,
thank you, me.
love it.
I love it. I
Love
love
it.
it.
Love
Dear
it.
God, thank you, me. This is the kind of merchandise you want to wear around. All right, suit up, guys, and go to the Godwear website.
Yes, yes. And
Thank
their
you.
website is there in the comments section. And I'm also going to place it there at the bottom of the screen. So it
Mhm.
is godwareins.com. Go over and visit their website and support this awesome couple. They are doing great things, and we want to support them in any way in which we can. So, yes,
Yes.
thank you so much, Christine, for sharing that. Yes, yes. And speaking of our guests, so we had another wonderful guest on last week, and that was none other than Deborah Anthony, and she was
Mhm.
the self-care counselor. Yes, and we learned so much from her last week, and she just shared some great information and insight on different things that we need to be doing to take better care of ourselves so we can make sure that we're living a most productive and healthy lifestyle. Yes, so we really enjoyed that last week.
We sure did. We sure did. Great conversation.
Mm-hmm. All right. All right. So, Christine, are we ready to get into our word of inspiration for today?
Absolutely.
All right.
Let's
Let's
go.
do it. Okay. So, being that we're going to have our brother Dwayne talking about credit, so our word of inspiration is ideally, you want to have great credit, but use very little of it. Mm,
Okay. I
yes.
like that. I'm ready to talk about that.
Okay. But yes, we're going to leave that up to the professor, the doctor, the one, the only, and that is Brother Dwayne, the Credit Man Reid. And he will explain to us why that statement is oh so true.
Mm.
Good evening, Vern, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. That's Elevate with Vern. She is always a
Oh,
cheerleader. Yes, and she was a guest
awesome.
before as well. So, yes, thanks, Vern, and thank you for joining us. So, we have one more. One more.
That's awesome.
Yes,
Okay.
one more little segment, video, I should say, that we want to share with you before we bring on our guests for this evening. And I'm going to show my age a little bit with this one here, Christine. Yeah, so if
Go
you
for
know who this character is and from what particular cartoon, don't be ashamed to show your age as well.
it.
Type it in the comments. So let me play it for you. So you will know by hearing his voice who exactly this is.
I'd gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. I'd gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
What
Oh, wow.
cartoon is that from? Uh, you
That
know,
is
don't say it.
okay.
Do you know though?
I'm gonna let the audience say it. I'm gonna let the audience say it. Maybe
Okay.
Dwayne. Maybe Dwayne knows. Let's bring Dwayne in.
No, he's a youngster. He don't know nothing about that. He still got Similac behind his ears.
Hi, Althea Martin.
Yes, that's my lovely wife. Greetings. Thank you for
Okay.
joining us. All right. So, Christine, are we ready to bring out our guest for this evening?
Yes, yes, yes. It definitely is. I loved what's holding you back, because it's not a long program, but it's a
Absolutely.
meaningful program. So I'm looking
Absolutely.
forward to having this conversation, get some nuggets.
Hmm. Yeah, it's going to be full of nuggets. So make sure you have out your notebooks and your pencil and take down plenty of notes, because our guest, Dwayne the Credit Man Reid, is going to bring it, and he's going to share all of the information that you need to help you get out of. All right, my man, Todd, he gave the answer.
Oh,
Yes, that is my guy Wimpy from the cartoon Popeye the Sailor Man. Yes, so Dwayne, the Credit Man Reid, bless you, my brother. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. So good to see
Nice,
you, my
nice.
brother.
good to meet you, Dwayne. Good to
Good to
meet you.
meet you too. Thank you. I was just gonna acknowledge you. I was waiting for him to finish talking. I'm sorry. I don't
No,
want to be rude.
My apologies.
Nice,
Yes,
nice,
my
nice.
brother. So yes, yes. So glad to have you on with us here on what's holding you back, and
Hmm.
share some of those golden nuggets in which you have in dealing with our credit,
Okay, okay.
set up properly, and make sure we can deal with any and all of those credit issues in which we may be having.
Hmm. Okay.
All right, so brother. All right, first question. So I'm just going to ask you to give us a basic introduction of yourself,
Hmm.
where you're from, your upbringing, and all of that good stuff.
Okay. I'll keep a long story short, but I'm Dwayne the Credit Man. I was actually born in Jamaica. I came here when I was 3.
Hmm.
I grew up in East Orange, New Jersey. Been there for a majority of my life until I got married and I moved to Bloomfield. But for the most part, I've always been in East Orange. My mother still lives there.
Okay.
I attended, all East Orange public schools. Went to Clifford J. Scott High School, which is no more. It's just just a memory now. But
Right.
they call it something different now. But went to Clifford J. Scott High School. Since I was in high school, I decided that I did not want to go to college because I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I never felt like the college route was going to help me to attain, the goals I was trying to reach.
Right.
Knowing what I know today, I wish I did go to college,
Really.
but
Really.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just I wish I would have took like maybe a business management course or maybe one of those courses in business, so I could kind of a lot of the mistakes I made I could have avoided
Gotcha.
had I went to college and got some higher education. But what I did was, I was kind of a knucklehead when I got out of high school
Hmm.
because you become a man and you can do whatever you want, but I wasn't really taking life seriously. So my
Yes.
mother started getting on me. So one day she told me, hey, you either gonna work or you're gonna go to school, but you gotta do one of the two. So me being the person I am, I did both. I worked and went to school. So I ended up going to school. There was a school called Satone Institute. I went there for computer repair because at the time, computers were still, they're going to way up. This was in the this was 2000. So
Hmm.
computers were still like, growing and everybody was jumping in the computer business. So I figured they're always going to need somebody to fix the computers, right? So I went to school for that. I finished that, but that didn't really work out. It wasn't really no money in that field because it was the bubble and it popped. And then I decided to go to my stepfather told me, hey, you should get a trade, right? Because people always need a trade. So
Right.
I decided to go to school for HVAC, which is heat and ventilation air conditioning. So I did that. Went to school for that. I ended up not finishing that course, but I ended up getting a job because I've always been good at figuring stuff out. I ended up getting a job in the field, so I didn't even have to finish school. And I
Hmm.
ended up, like just learning all the stuff that I learned. And then I ended up, I worked for a company called Top Portable Air, which was like a temporary air conditioning company. They did a lot of construction sites, buildings under constructions, like hospitals that maybe the AC didn't work. We came in with these temporary units, set them up. So I did that for a couple years, and then after that I got my real first career position for a company called Johnson Controls. You might have heard of them. They
Yes.
do everything. They do thermostats, they do everything. But they had what's called building automation, right?
Hmm.
Which is pretty much because I went to school for computers and I went to school for HVAC. I had a very small niche understanding of both businesses. So
Hmm.
I was able to get a job where I did computer work. Control systems was ran by the computers on HVAC systems, right? So it was only a handful of guys that can actually do this work. A lot of times they'll find a guy to do computer and train them on HVAC, or they'll find a guy to do HVAC and train them on the computers, which is kind of hard. I understood both because I went to school for both. Now, mind you, I just did it because I didn't want to get kicked out of my mother's house. It ended up working out for me, right?
Yes.
So I jumped in that field for about 10, 15 years. I did that. And then in 2005, I remember going to the dealership. 2004, I went to the car dealership to get my first car,
Mm-hmm.
and I went and I bought a red Ford Contour, right? So I signed all the paperwork. They told me they're going to get me a loan, and they're going to let me. When I come back to get my stuff, they're going to have me sign the paperwork, let me know how much my interest rate is, all that stuff. I knew nothing about none of this stuff, right? I drove this red Ford Contour around for probably about maybe like 3 weeks. So they called me. They said, "Hey, we couldn't get you approved for the red one, but we have a blue one. We should be able to get you approved for." Mind you, the red one had leather seats, sunroof, everything nice, right? Came back, they had this ugly blue one with cloth seats, no sunroof, no power. You still winding up the windows, right? I
Yeah.
said, I need a car. It doesn't matter. I drove the blue one around for about 2 weeks, and they called me and said, "Hey, sorry, we can't get you approved." Brought me back into the dealership. But at this time, I was already doing credit repair, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing. Well, we'll get into that later. But I was already doing credit repair at the time, but I didn't do my credit. I was doing other people credit. So the guy told me, "Hey, we can't get you approved because your credit is bad." And I was like, "What you mean my credit is bad?" He said, "Your credit is terrible. We can't get you approved for nothing. So we're gonna need the keys to the car, and that's it." So I said, "How am I get home?" He's like, "I don't know. You gotta figure that out." And I
Yeah.
ended up calling my mother. I said, "Hey, Mom, can you come pick me up from the dealership?" She's like, "What happened?" I said, "I couldn't get the car." She came. She picked me up. And I remember I was so like sad, and I'm like, "This has got to be the worst feeling in the world to think that you're gonna buy a car and they tell you can't get approved."
Wow.
So that pretty much was my wake up call to
Mm-hmm.
realize that not only do I need to get my credit straight, because my mother used to always tell me, pay your bills on time, you're gonna mess up your credit. But when you're young, you're not trying to listen to nothing your parents telling you. You're like, I'll be all right. I know what I'm doing. And pretty much I ended up I messed up my credit. I had a Providian credit card. And that credit card, they took me to court. They sued me. They garnished my wages. It was all bad. It was
Mm.
all bad. So they pretty much messed my credit up. But that pretty much is what opened up my eyes to credit and the importance of credit.
Yeah.
Because what's crazy is I was already around that time. I had just started fixing credit, and I was fixing everybody else's credit. But again, I didn't know the importance of it. I had all these older people that kept coming to me saying, "Hey, I know you heard you know how to fix credit," and I'm like, "Yeah, I can fix your credit." And I was fixing everybody's credit except for my own. And that was the day I realized what credit was and the importance of it.
All
So
right.
that's pretty much how I, pretty much grew up and got into it and everything.
Yeah. Let me stop you there because we
Hmm.
we got to hear that story about how you were driving along the highway.
Yeah. I got that for
Like,
you. I got
catch
that for you.
you and
Yeah,
say,
that was before the red contour.
hey, okay. So yeah, tell us that story of how when you first got started doing credit and fixing everybody else's credit, and
Okay.
then you hit that light bulb went off where you like, oh,
Okay. So how let's get into how I got into credit. When I was 17 years old,
mhm,
back before George Bush, and I'm kind of aging myself, but George Bush, second George Bush, he changed the bankruptcy laws. But back in the day, you used to be able to start a business, get a whole bunch of business credit, use it all up, bankrupt it, and then start over and do it again and do it again, do it again. There was no limits to it, right? So what happened was George Bush came in and changed the laws. But what happened before that, what we used to do was my brother's older brother, he used to set up people businesses and set up their business credit profile so that they can have access to this credit, right? So back in the day, you couldn't. It's not like today where you want to start a business, you go around the website, you answer a couple questions, boom, here's your LLC, here's your tax ID. Back in the day, you actually had to go downtown North, find out if a name was being used. You had to register your business. That you had to do everything down there. So we used to do the legwork for him. We used to go downtown, get all the information for him, get all the paperwork, whatever we got to do, bring it back to him. He did what he did. He'll give us a couple of dollars. So one day I asked him, "Mike, so I'm 17. I'm a senior. I think I'm a junior or senior in high school at the time." And one day I just asked him, I said, "What is all this for?" He's like, "Oh, I help set up business credit and personal credit." And I'm like, "Well, what is that?" So he said, "Look, I don't got no time to explain this to you. Read this book." Right. And I guess he thought I wasn't going to read it. He gave me the book. I read through the entire book. And I remember actually, and I can't remember what the name of this book was. I think it was like Understanding Credit or Credit, blah, blah. It's some type of book. Well,
mhm.
it pretty much explained business credit and personal credit. And I remember after I finished reading the book, I closed the book and I put it down. I said, "Man, what a scam." Right. That's what I said to myself. This is a scam. So after I read the book now, my mother came to me. She was trying to buy a car. And she came and said, she can't get a car. And I said, "Why not?" She said, "Oh, because my credit is bad." I said, "I can fix your credit." I'm like 19 years old. I'm telling my mother, who's a grown woman, got a job, got a career, got all this stuff going on, that I can fix your credit. She said, "What credit can you fix?" I was like, "Give me your stuff and watch me." So I went on the thing. I learned all this from the book because again, I read the entire book. I went on the websites. I did all this research, did all this stuff, right? pretty much arming myself to do these things. Not even at the time, I didn't even know I was doing it. I was just curious. So I went on the websites, did what I had to do, send the letters in, and I want to say about 30 days later, I came home and she was in the kitchen cooking, and she was just so happy. And I walked in, I said, "What's up, ma?" She turned around with the biggest smile on her face. She was like, "Look at this." It was a letter from TransUnion, and all you saw was deleted, 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 deleted. All these negative accounts she had were all deleted off her credit report. And she's like, "This is what you did?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "My credit score is 7 something now." And I was like, "Oh," "that's good, right?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get my car tomorrow." I was like, "All right, cool." She went and got her car. She went and got I want to say she got a 2000. I can't remember the year, but it was a Toyota Sienna. It was a white one. So she went and she got that brand new, right? So then once that happened, I remember I was walking into the living room. My father was coming out of the den, and he stopped me. He was like, "Hey, I heard you know how to fix credit." And that's how like my business started, because then he was like, "Fix mine," and then he started telling people, and then I ended up setting up my mother's dining room as my office. I had a printer, computer. I started buying stuff because I'm like, man, I can't do this stuff, by hand. So I started buying stuff. So I had the whole setup in the dining room, and I remember I asked my mother. I said, "Hey, look, it's about to be tax season," because I had a mentor, and they was telling me, "Hey, your busiest season is gonna be tax season." I said, "Hey, it's gonna be tax season. It's okay if people come here." She's like, "Yeah, it's fine." No lie, I think it was like early February 15th, something like that. I had 5 or 6 people in her living room. I had a family in the dining room that I was working with, and I was just moved. They was coming in, I was moving them out, coming and moving out. So my mother comes home one day, and she like, after I was done, so I came out counting all this money, right? So she goes, so she stopped, she started laughing. She was like, you serious?" I said, "Yeah." She was like, "When you said, can you have some, I thought you meant one people. I didn't know you was gonna use this as a real office." I said, "Yeah, that's my office." She's like, "Well, I'm about to think twice about charging you rent," because I asked her, "Was she gonna charge me rent?" She's like, "I'm about to think twice about it." So I ended up giving her a couple dollars, but I ended up like
Right.
everybody, was coming through there. But at one point, I started saying to myself, I said, "Man, I can't keep having people come here. These are, strangers coming to my mother's house." So
Right.
that's when I decided I had to like kind of get things together. But at the time, I'm just doing this for extra money. I'm using this to buy sneakers, take my girl out who's not my wife, take her out at to the movies or something. I'm not really doing this stuff to like I'm not thinking like the light bulb didn't go off yet. So one day, when a friend of mine came by the house and he said, "Hey, I have a friend that wants you to come to his house. He got a couple people you can work on." I said, "All right, cool." So I went to the guy's house. When I walked into the house, it was a regular house, but it was a trap house, which is what we'll call it today, right? So he had drugs all over the place, like it was crazy. Now, mind you, today I would never go in a house like that, but because at the time I was like 19, who cares, right? I'm not thinking about it. So he says, "Hey, I got a bunch of guys coming over. They want to get their credit fixed. None of them have credit. How much would you charge?" He was like, "I'm gonna pay you $100 a person." Mind you, at the time I'm only charging $50, $75. I'm
Wow.
not charging no real money, right? Not even realize what the work I was actually doing, but I'm not charging no real money. So he says, "How much do you charge?" I said 75. And mind you, I was charging 50. I just said 75 because I'm like, maybe I can up it a little bit. He's like, "I'll give you $100 a person." I was like, "All right, cool." I went to this guy's house probably for like a month and a half every Saturday. I would have 5 to 7 people every Saturday. Like, I mean, they would be sitting around waiting for me. I would come in, work on their credit, and I ended up running into this guy from my neighborhood. So he was like, "Oh, you the guy that's fixing the crowd?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Yeah, I've been hearing about you. Everybody's been talking about you." So we all come in. Now these are all street guys, right? They all coming in. They sit down 30 minutes, fill out the application, do what they got to do. So I remember they all left, and then one day he was like, "All right, that's everybody. I'll let you know if I got anybody else." I'm like, "Cool." So one day I remember I went and I bought a 93 Toyota Camry V6. Now you couldn't tell me nothing. I had a 93 Camry. This is in 2004, 2003. I got this 10-year-old car that I bought that was crashed up. I got it fixed. I paid out my own pocket, so I was proud of myself, right? And I'm on the parkway one day in traffic. I just got it out the shop. I got my, back in the day, you put your speakers in the back, the little subwoofer with the amp and all that stuff. You can't tell me nothing, right? The dude from my neighborhood, he pulls up next to me with a 645. So this was in 2004 because he had a 2005. I think that car came out in 2005. He pulls up next to me in a 645 convertible, right? And he's playing his music. He got these big rims on it, and I see him. I'm like, "Yo, what's up?" So you want to win? He's like, so he says, "Thanks, Credit Man," and he beeped the horn. That's where I got my name from. He was like, "Thanks, Credit Man," and he beeped the horn and pulled off. So that's when I sat there for a second. I said, "Wait a minute." He just came to me for help a couple months back, and he has that, and I have this. What am I doing wrong?
Exactly.
So I said, you know what? When I go home, I'm gonna jump on the computer and check some stuff out. And I remember I went home. I sat down. Back then it was Yahoo, wasn't no Google. I went on Yahoo.com And I remember I waited because the internet was slow. I waited for it to load up. When it loaded up, I typed in credit repair and I hit enter. A
Mm-hmm.
whole world just opened up in front of my eyes. I
Mm-hmm.
started seeing what people were charging, what people were doing with their credit, and I sat back and I was like so like my mind blown. I'm like, not only did I read that book, but for some reason I thought credit was only for when you're trying to buy a house. I didn't realize they had credit cards, they had charge cards, personal loans, like everything was going based off your credit. Mind you, I read this book and the only thing the book told me about was houses. And
Mm-hmm.
it told me about houses, and I think it said mention credit card too. Because back in the day, people didn't really have a lot of knowledge on credit like they have today. Today, you can learn everything, but back then, the knowledge wasn't really shared like that unless you went online and researched it, right? And this whole world opened up, and I remember I went on not credit repair. It was what's the name of that law firm that do credit repair? Lexington Law Firm.
Okay.
That's how I found out about them, and I went on their website, and that's when I looked, and I was like, wow, these guys were charging like $99 a month. They had another company that was charging like $400. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking to myself, I'm over here charging $75 to do God's work. Because that's pretty much what I was doing in the financial sector. When you do credit repair and you get people ready, financially ready to make these huge purchases, that's like doing God's work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, you know what? I'm gonna take this thing seriously. I'm gonna stop doing it for a while. I got my LLC, got my tax ID, my bank account. All the money that I had saved up. I bought a laptop because I had a big computer. I bought a laptop. I remember I bought mad paper. I mean, I went to Circuit City and I bought a new printer. I bought a bigger printer, and I said, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it right. And that's when the light bulb went off, and that's when really, at the time it was called Clean Slate Credit Repair. That's when Clean Slate Credit Repair was born, right? And that's when I kind of realized that guy, if he didn't pull up to me that day, who knows how long I would have continued doing this stuff. And I didn't understand. I was like, wow, a lot of people need their credit fixed. Not realizing that credit repair, people was paying thousands of dollars for it. And I'm charging $75 for it, right? And they'll come in, they're throwing the money at me. Here you go. Take
Yeah.
it here, take the money, take the money. And I'm not even realizing why they're giving me the money. I'm thinking like these are people hard earned money and I got to make sure I do a good job. So here's a funny part. Before I end, here's a funny part to that story. So remember the guy that was giving me $100 a person?
Right.
I ran into him at Walmart in the
Yeah.
parking lot. This was years later.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked up to him and I said, "Yo, what's up, man? Long time." We talking, asked him how the family was. And I said, "Hey, man, keep it real with me. How much you was charging those people when I used to come fix their credit?" He was charging them $300 a person.
Mm.
And he was giving me 100. And I started laughing. I said, "Bro, I'm not even mad at you." He was like, "Man, you was young, you was hungry." He's like, "I took advantage of you, but look where you at today." And I was like, "You know what? I can't be mad at you, man." He was
Nah.
charging three because he knew the importance of credit. And I'm the guy fixing the credit and didn't know
Yep.
about it.
Yep.
Right. So we ended up laughing and just walking off. And I was like, man, I wish I would have said 150. At least I would have got half the money.
Lesson learned. Christine?
Mhm.
You're asking. I'm processing all of this, and I just wanted to say that um, I don't. Yeah, this is something that people say they fell into things. You've
Mhm.
definitely fell into it.
Yes. Yes.
Um, we can go through an analysis of why it's stuck
Mm-hmm.
with you. But one of the things that, as you're speaking, I remember my son saying to me, "Mom, you taught me well in manners and Bible verses and rules, but he doesn't know anything about financial literacy."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I thought to myself, geez, I thought I ticked all the boxes. So, as coming from a West Indian background as well, Jamaican background, but we have a different way of looking at finances.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So the barter system, credit was more your word, your bond,
Mhm.
and so forth. So that that is a taught behavior. It's a
Yeah.
behavior. It's a habit. And it's something that I, really commend you for doing. And I want to ask if you actually have, um, anything to do with youth and educating youth, whether through seminars, webinars, going to schools, community centers, on actually, how the system is can work for you or against you.
Yes, definitely. So before COVID, because COVID kind of changed a lot. before COVID, I went into a lot of schools. I gave courses. I spoke to the kids. I did a bunch of career days. I was really like in the schools. I knew a lot of the staff there. So every year they would bring me back. I would go for, if they had like assemblies on financial literacy, I would be one of the speakers. Yeah. So before COVID, I was doing a lot of that, but then after COVID, it kind of stopped for a while. And I literally just started doing it again last year, where I started going back into the schools again. Because they had a lot of restrictions on all that stuff for a couple years since the whole COVID pandemic happened. But yeah, we were doing a lot of things for the kids. I used to do online credit classes.
Nice.
Every week I go live on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. and I tend to have a lot of kids on my live. Because when I go to these, when I go speak at these schools, I give them my information. I say, hey, I go live every Wednesday, so check me out. So I kind of discuss a different credit related topics. So education has always been one of our biggest things, to try to educate people on the system. Because being that I've been doing this for so long, I realized the main issue that people have is not necessarily because there's like a stigma out here that people just don't have bad credit because they just don't care, and that's not necessarily the case. A lot of times people have bad credit because they don't understand how the credit systems work, right? And when I hear people say that, like, the credit system is a scam or the credit system is set up for you to fail, that's how I know they don't know they don't really understand the system. They're just frustrated with it, because the system is literally just an algorithm and a number. They don't care about your skin tone. They don't care about your address. They don't care about none of that stuff. So once you understand the rules and how the system actually works, you're going to have a high credit score. Now, I know a lot of times people, they hear about these banks that are like, not giving people loans because they're black or the place they live in. They make those decisions based off everything else except your credit. Because and a lot of times when you hear these stories, they'll tell you that, oh, people have similar credit scores. Because it's kind of, I want to say it's almost impossible for you to score somebody lower because of their race or because of their ethnicity or because of their address, anything like that. Because again, it's an algorithm that doesn't include none of that stuff. It's literally, how many bills do you have? Do you pay it on time? Do you carry a balance? Like, it's certain numbers that they look for. And I realized once people educate themselves on credit, because I have a lot of clients that come through the process, know nothing about credit. And by the end of the process, when they have good credit, if they make any mistakes and they come back and they tell me what's wrong. Hey, I just want to let you know, I got this collection account on my credit report. It dropped me 40 points. Can you get the collection account off? Right? So they know now. They understand how the credit works. They understand that if I use this card, my score is going to drop. So when they see their score drop, they're like, all right, well, I'm just going to pay the card back off and the score is going to go back up. But a lot of times people don't realize that credit is just, credit is here for you to it's not for you, it's for the banks, right? So the credit score is sold as a way for the banks to make money off you by applying more interest because of mistakes you made in the past, right? But here's the funny part. If you have a perfect credit report with a perfect score, it's harder for you to get credit than someone that has a 680 credit score that has an occasional late payment, carries a high balance, have a lot of credit cards. It's easier for them to get credit than for you to get it with your perfect credit score. Because again, they can't make no money off of you.
Right.
You do everything the correct way. I'll give you a quick story. My wife, one time she couldn't get a credit card. She had like 3 credit cards, and everywhere she went, she can get approved. So I said, let me look at your credit report. And all her credit cards was on 0. Her car note was paid on time. Her student loan was paid on time. I said, babe, use your credit cards, keep a small balance on them, and go and apply for the credit cards. And she went and she applied, and I think she got like 2 credit cards like this. And I was like, yeah, your credit report, even though you have a strong score, is boring. The banks don't want people like you. They want people that they can make money off. They make money off you by charging you the finance charges. And when you mess up, they charge those late fees. They charge those over the limit fees, whatever. They have all these fees they charge you because you messed up. Those are the people they want. They want the people with the occasional late payment, the occasional late fee, because they can charge you a higher interest rate and they can charge you, a whole bunch of fees. So that's why I try to teach people how this stuff works, why it works the way it works, and how to avoid, ending up in the bad credit space. If you were there before, we get you out of there and show you how you got there. So hopefully you don't get there again.
Okay, great.
Wow.
All right. So speaking on that, sorry, Christine. So for the youth coming up, the young and up and comers that don't have any credit as of yet, what are some things that they can do to start to establish some credit for themselves?
Now that's a great question. Now here's what my goal always been, right? It's 2 ways you can do things. It's the easy way and the hard way. The easy way is your parents have great credit or they have decent credit, right? So what does that mean? That means they have a mixture of credit. They have credit cards. They might have car loans, student loans, right? A lot of times their credit cards, if they use their credit cards the right way, they offer what's called an authorized user. So a lot of times I tell people, if you have, let's say, for instance, a Capital One credit card, they offer you an authorized user. You can add your child on that credit card as an authorized user, right? What then happens is once you add them as an authorized user, let's say you had that credit card for 6 years on it, you never paid late, always kept the balance right, did what you had to do. they're going to duplicate that entire history from their credit report onto your credit report. So their credit report literally went from 0 to almost 720 because of that one account that they were added to, right? Now, once they're added to that account and they score go up, now they can go get their own credit cards if you trust them. But usually what I tell parents that do this, what you can do is you can add them as authorized user. What's going to happen is they're going to send you a credit card in the mail with their name on it. You can go onto the website and you can restrict it to $200. You can sit down with your kid and say, look, this credit card has $200 on it. I don't want you to use more than 30% of the limit. That is around $65, somewhere around there. So only use $65 a month. And that way you can kind of monitor their usage, and that's how they can learn discipline on that credit card. Once they utilize that credit card correctly and it's been consistent over a couple months, then they can go out and get their own credit card. Or you can just up the limit on that card. Hey, you got 500 now. Now your 30% is 200. You know what I'm saying? And then they keep working it like that. And then once they're ready now, let's say that, they get a job where they can actually start paying their own bills. Okay, cool. You can get your own credit card now. Now they can go and apply for their own Capital One because they don't have a zero credit score. They have a 720 credit score with nice history. So now they get their own credit card. So they might get a credit card that have a limit of anywhere between, $300 to as high as $20,000 based on, the card that they got attached to. Now that's the easy way. That's for the parents that know how, that came to Refinance Solutions, got their credit fixed. And now they're living a good credit lifestyle and they're able to put their kids on. The hard way now is if you're, let's say you just turned 18, 19 and you don't have any credit and you don't have nobody that can add you to a credit card to help you boost up your score to, rush the process along, you got to go get your own credit cards. Now you got to get what's called secured credit cards. So pretty much, if you, let's say Capital One has a great secured credit card offer, right, where you'll pay anywhere between $49, $99, or $200, and they'll give you a credit card with $200 on it. Right. So a lot of times I tell people, they'll pay $99. They'll give you a credit card with $200 on it. And as long as you use that credit card correctly, I want to say in a year, they convert it to a real credit card and give you back your deposit. Right. And then once that happens, then you can get another credit card and you can keep building from there because the credit card is the best way to build credit. But I always tell people the easiest way to do it is to, have your parent make sure they got their credit stuff together so they can kind of help you. But you do have companies that you got a lot of companies now that actually help you to build your credit. But a lot of times they are secure credit card companies where you got to put down a couple $100 just to get with these, just to have a credit card with that. Like you can get an Amex, but you go get an Amex, you got to put down $300, and that credit card only has $300 on it, and it still has the same interest rate, still has the same fees, still has everything the same, just that you had to put up the security deposit because you don't have credit.
Okay. All right. So what is the credit threshold at 30% that we're not supposed to go over? What's that about?
Okay, so yeah, it's pretty interesting. And you'd be surprised how many people don't know about the 30% rule, right? So pretty much. Let's start with, so credit was supposed to be an extension to your cash. When it was first created, it was supposed to be an extension to your cash, right? Meaning, let's say you had $100 and you might have another $100 in credit. So they want you to use your $100 first, and then you use the credit for whatever you need. So say if you want to buy a car, let's say for easy math, the car was $10,000. Credit would say, okay, we'll give you 7, you put down the 3. So that's kind of how it goes, right? So use your 3, we'll give you the 7, that's 10,000. There's your car, you pay us back the 7. What ended up happening was over time, people started getting more and more hip to credit. So they started realizing, hey, I can use the credit and pay it back, keep my cash and pay it back. What happens is they always had a rule, right? Because credit was supposed to be an extension to your cash. If you're using more than 30% of your credit, that means you don't have no cash, right? So what happens is your credit scores start to drop now, right? Because they're saying, hey, you're pretty much overextending yourself, even though you're only using 30, 40, 50%. You're overextending yourself. So they assume that you don't have no more cash to pay it back. So they drop your credit score so you can't get any other credit from anywhere else, right? Even though in today's society, credit is completely backwards now. People use credit first and they use their cash last. Or they might say, hey, I have $10,000 in credit. This car costs $12,000. I'm going to put the $10,000 and then put the last 2 from out of my pocket. But back when it was created, it was supposed to be an extension to your cash. So that's why I always tell people, don't use more than 30% of your credit cards because it's going to drop your credit score. Keep it under 30%. You can go over the 30, but understand that when that bill comes, you want to pay it back on the 30 because you will see an impact on your credit score. And the higher you go, the lower your credit score goes. Now I've had people come into my office, flawless credit reports, never paid late in the last 7 years. No late payments, no nothing. But their credit scores are 590 and they don't know why. And I would look at their credit report and I would say, oh, you're using 75% of your credit. That's why your credit score is so low. And they're looking at me like, oh, but they gave me the credit. Aren't I supposed to use it? Yes and no, right? Because the credit card companies, they want you to use it. What they do, they give you rewards, they give you points, they give you cash. They tell you, hey, use our credit cards at the gas station, you'll get this. Use it at the grocery store, you get this. Hey, you get 30% off if you use this credit card at this store, right? So they want you to use it, but the credit agencies are saying, no, 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 no. We don't want you to use it because just the fact that you're using it means you don't have no cash. So we're going to drop your credit score so you can't get no more credit. So you got to find that balance. So that balance is usually the 30% rule. So make sure you keep your credit usage. And I mean overall credit usage, whether you have one credit card or 10. You want to make sure that all those credit cards added up together don't use more than 30% of your total limit.
Okay, excellent. All right, so next question now. So when it comes to paying off or making a payment on your credit card bill, what is the proper time to actually make that payment?
Okay, so it's 2 days that you should care about, because I know there's a lot of stuff floating around on the internet where people saying if you pay your credit cards 5 times a month, it tricks the system and blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's not true. There's 2 things that happen. There's 2 things you want to consider when you're paying your credit card bill, right? Now, remember we discussed the 30% rule, right? So let's say, for instance, you're at 27% on your usage, you're still under the 30, and your bill comes.
Right.
In that case, as long as you pay your bill before it's due, you're fine. So if your bill's due on the 15th, you pay it on the 14th, you're fine, right? Usually what happens is this. The second date that I'm talking about is called your cycle end date. The different companies call it different things. It's called a cycle end date. It's called the 28-day, whatever they want to call it. Pretty much you have a 28 to 31 day cycle, right? At the end of that cycle, that's when they report your balance to the credit bureaus.
Yes.
So if your balance is, let's say for instance, you went over the 30%. Let's say your cycle ended on the 15th of the month, right? Now every month is different because again, it's 28 days to 31 days. So it's never exactly, it's not the same on every month. It's going to be a couple of days different. So let's say for instance, let's say you're at 50%, right? And you know your cycle end date is the 14th. It tells you right on your bill your cycle end date. So let's say your cycle end date is the 14th and is the 10th. You knew you went over, you're at 27%, but now you're at 40. What I usually tell people is on that cycle end date, you can make a payment before the cycle end date. If you make a payment, you're back down to 27%. On that cycle end date, they're going to report that 27%, right? So they're going to report that to the credit bureaus, but you still have to pay when the bill comes. They're going to generate a bill. The bill is going to come with the 27%, whatever that balance is. You still have to make a payment. So look at it like this. The cycle end date is the option to make a payment based on what your balance is. And your due date is what you have to make a payment before that due date. A lot of times when people explain that, they tend to tell you pay your bill during the cycle end date. But here's what happens. A lot of people, they pay that payment during the cycle end date, and then they get that bill in the mail. And they're like, oh, I paid it already. No, you didn't, because during your cycle end date, you have one of your credit card app, and you see it says that no bill is due right now.
Right,
that's because you're in the middle of a cycle, right?
Yeah.
Once that bill is generated, that's when your bill is due. So I had a bunch of people that came to me like, there was this one popular guy on social media who gave this example but forgot to tell people that you still have to make that payment. So a lot of people listen to him, and they were only paying on their cycle end dates, and they ended up doing 30, 60, 90 days late, and they didn't understand why. And I had a girl that came to me, and I was like, where'd you get this from? And she showed me the video. And I said, no, he told you wrong. You still have to make a payment on that due date, because again, during that cycle, there is no payment due, right? So then you have I want to say a 10 to 14 day window when the payment is due. You still have to make a payment. So understand that the cycle end date is the option to pay based on your balance. But that due date, you have to make that, whatever that minimum payment is, you have to make that payment.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little tricky there. So yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to explain too sometimes. Yeah. I just try to tell people when is this a suggestion, when is you don't have to do it, but if you want to, you can. And the other one is you have to make that payment by the due date.
Yeah, that's going to make a big difference in your actual credit report. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, appreciate that, brother. So yeah, what are some other tips that you can share with the audience that they need to know?
Now, these might seem like stupid tips, right? But me being in credit repair, I'm gonna give you 3 tips that I usually tell people. For one, check your credit report. You'll be surprised how many people come to me and tell me they have bad credit and have no access to their credit report. The only reason they know they had bad credit is because every time they apply for something, they get denied, right? So they assume they have bad credit. Okay. So I tell people, check your credit report. You have Credit Karma, which is free. I know Credit Karma, the score is not that accurate, but the content, no matter where you go, when you pull Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax credit report, the content is always the same. It's the algorithm, the scoring algorithm that's different, right? So you have to make sure you check your credit score. Check all 3 credit reports and make sure you know what's reported on your credit score, because the credit bureaus will tell you it's your responsibility to make sure everything on there is being reported correctly. It's not theirs. So if you lose the opportunity because something's being reported incorrectly and you didn't do nothing about it, they don't take no responsibility for it. They're going to say, well, you should have said something about it. That's why we set up this whole dispute process for you to fix these things that's wrong on your credit report. So check your credit report, have access to it. Experian is free. Experian gives you a free FICO score to give you a free credit report. There's no excuse. Credit Karma, free. You got all these companies giving you a free credit report that you can download the app on your phone where you can look at your credit at any time, right? So that's one. Two, I think everyone should take some sort of credit course. Now we do have we call it a credit crash course, which I'll be doing one soon, where I pretty much teach people the basics about credit, how to read a credit report, how to build a credit report, the calculation, how the credit score is calculated. We kind of give them a whole rundown about credit, right? I think everyone, because they're not teaching you this in the school. They don't teach you about all this credit stuff in the schools. And even when they do, they barely touch on it, right? Because I used to go into these classes that were taught credit, and these kids knew nothing about credit, right? So that's why I always tell people, make sure you go and take some sort of credit understanding, whether it's my crash course or maybe somebody else might give you a credit course. You don't even got to go deep into it. Just take a basic credit class, so that way you understand things like interest rates. You understand how the banks make money off of you, right? Because things like interest rates people don't know about, right? So make sure you understand the basics about credit, right? And that's two. So the first one was make sure you you actually have access to your credit report. The second one is take some type of course so you can understand credit. And the third one is don't co-sign. Okay. Do not co-sign for anyone unless I'm gonna give you the rules, the co-sign rules. Rule number one, do not co-sign for something that you cannot afford. If you drive a Toyota Camry, do not co-sign for an S550 Benz for somebody, because if they stop making that payment, you're going to be responsible. Because a lot of people think that, oh, I'm only a co-signer. You are 50-50 on that car. So if they cannot afford it, you cannot afford. If they can't pay for it, you got to pay for it, right? That's one. So let's say, for instance, you're married, your husband messed up his credit, and now you got to co-sign for him, right? Understand that you got to be able to make that payment if he can't. That's one, right? Understand that whenever he pays late, right, that's going to go on your credit report as well. It's going to be on both you guys' credit reports. So if he pays late, you're going to get hit for it. So understand that not only you got to make sure he's paying, you got to make sure he's paying on time, right? What's the third one? The third one was, and if that car gets repossessed, right, you can't say, hey, when the bank calls you and say, hey, the car got repossessed, we need our money. You saying, hey, I didn't own that car, my husband owned that car. No, you're the co-signer, you did own that car. So you got to be prepared for whatever comes after that car gets repossessed. So that's why I can tell you guys so many stories about people co-signing for people. And I can tell you a crazy story about a girl that co-signed. She had a Nissan Sentra and she co-signed on a BMW 745 for a guy that they were just talking stages or whatever. He was in a jam. He needed a brand new 745. She co-signed for him. They broke up. She called and asked him for the car back. He trashed the car. She found it in Philly trashed. She had to pay like $10,000 to get the car fixed up, and she ended up selling the car to get it out from under. She was broke for like 4 months while she was dealing with this car. So understand that when you co-sign, you are 50-50 on whatever you're co-signing for. You're not just a co-signer. You're an owner. You're half owner of whatever you co-sign for. So understand that. Do not co-sign. These are things I see all the time as a credit repair person. And I had people that sit in front of me all the time and say, I'm just a co-signer. But yeah, you own it too. You're 50-50. So if they sue them, they can sue you. So understand that.
Wow. All right. So Dwayne, you was talking about a credit course. Is that something you offer, and where can they get that from?
Yeah, you can follow my Facebook, Reid Financial Solutions. Also, you can follow me on Instagram, Reid Financial Solutions. I was gonna do it last Sunday, but I didn't get a chance to. So I'm either this Sunday or next Sunday. But I'll put it up and let people know when we're gonna be doing it. But I do it online and in person, so virtually and in person. And it's called a Credit Crash Course. It's about an hour. And I try to jam pack as much things in there as possible. So the whole goal of the Credit Crash Course is for you to leave understanding, having with a good basic understanding of how credit works, right? Because again, I realized that once people understand how credit works, they tend not to make the mistakes that they would make if they didn't understand. And when they do make the mistakes, they know the mistake they're making because they understand how credit works. So it's not like they're just doing stuff blindly and not realizing the impact that it's having. I try to have them walk out of there understanding interest rates, understanding how credit scores calculate.
Uh-oh.
There he goes. He's back.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I try to understand. I try to have them walk out of here understanding all these things about credit. So that way, when they go back into the real world now, they know that they know when things are a scam.
Going again.
What is wrong with this thing? Hello?
You're back.
I don't know why it keeps doing that. Hold on one second.
Yeah, it's a glitch in the matrix.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Not
I
hearing
can't hear
us?
you guys.
All right. You might have to
Hello, hello,
log
hello,
out.
hello.
Let me send you a message to log out and come back in. All right, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, looks like you did it already.
He's good. Okay, awesome. So I think this is probably warranted a lot of information for a part two.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well,
Okay, we're back. Sorry about that.
Hear us? Are you
Yeah, I can
hearing
hear you now. Yeah, I can hear you now. I don't know why the sound went out.
us? Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
little glitch there. It's all right. But
sorry
wow,
about that.
no, no worries, brother. Well, we greatly appreciate all of the insight and information that you're sharing with us. It is very,
Mhm.
very helpful.
absolutely. I was just saying that it definitely warrants a part two.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
I would
it's
love,
a lot. It's a lot.
yeah, yeah. I would love to, in part two, perhaps maybe an introduction to your course to just get an overview.
Mhm.
And also in regards to part two, talking about your corporate credit versus personal credit.
Mhm. Oh yeah, we could definitely discuss that. That's a whole nother.
Yes.
That's a whole nother ballpark.
Yeah, I didn't want to, even touch the tip of that iceberg. So
Yes.
Mm,
next time, love
okay.
to have you back again, and love the story and folks that you know, you're looking at a question that we had in the onset when we were launching. What's holding you back? And that's, are you
Mhm.
doing what you want to do, have to do, or need to do?
Mhm.
And so, in closing, wanted to ask you.
Oh.
Yeah, here he goes. So when he comes back, I'm going to ask
Hmm.
what stage he's at now.
Is it a want, a need? What's the other one?
If you want to do it, need to do it, or have to do it. It's
Okay.
a yes.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about that labor of love, sounds like something he fell into. In need, he needed to do it. He wanted to get those shoes to go on a date. So he needed to do it at 19. $100. Hey, that was all right.
Yeah. But
Okay.
before he leaves, I want him to share his story of how his wife was the one that had to kick him out the nest, spread his wings, and really go full bore with the business. You
Yes,
want to share?
yes. That's a great story. Yeah. So at one point, I try to keep it short. So at one point, I was working my career that I had in building automation. So I did that for about 10, 12 years.
Hmm.
And I was making some decent money. I was making probably about 120 a year doing that. And then I got married and I ended up having three kids back to back to back, right? So my
Hmm.
wife was pretty much working. She was taking care of the kids. Um, and I was working. I would work a regular shift, and we was doing an upgrade at City Hall in New York City. So I would work from 8 to 5 at my regular shift, and I would go from 6 to 10 at the second shift, and then I would come home and I would do credit work, right? And I did credit work usually on Saturdays and Sundays. So 7 days a week I'm working, right? So I'm telling we're trying to make some moves. So I told her, hey, I'm just gonna grind, try to get as much money as I can. And then so of course I got busy and my kids were growing, right? And they didn't really know who I was because I was never home. I would come home, I would play with them, and I would get up and leave. Come home, play with them, get up and leave. And I no, I'm lying. I had two kids, and my wife was pregnant at the time. So going through the whole pregnant mother, baby, pregnant wife thing, along with two other kids. So it was real. It's a lot of stress on her. But at the time, I'm not even realizing it because I'm just working, working, working. I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing by bringing in all the money, right? So then she ended up one day, I was at my job and I started telling her how much money I was making doing credit repair. I said, hey, I'm working all these hours at my job Monday through Friday. And then Saturday, I go into my office and I make more than what I made all week. Right. So I don't know why I told her that. So she suggested it. She was like, oh, maybe you should leave your job. And I was like, I'm not ready yet. So she would come to me and she would ask me, hey, why don't you leave your job? And I kept giving the excuses. Hey, I want to pay off this credit card debt. Credit card debt got paid off. Hey, I want to pay off this car. Car got paid off. Hey, I want to have this much money in the bank. We had that much money in the bank. I had no excuse for why I was doing it, but really I was scared to leave. I got a wife and two kids and one on the way. I'm scared to death to leave my job because my job is like the security blanket, right? And at the time, I wasn't thinking that, I can take credit to the next level. I'm just thinking the credit is, it's good money, but I got to have a job because that's what we learned. We, get beat into our head. Hey, you got to keep a job, keep a job.
Right.
Right. So I remember one day I came home and my daughter was running towards me. When she was running towards me, she tripped and she fell and she rolled like 3 times. And when I went to pick her up, she knocked my hand down and she ran all the way upstairs to her mother. Right. So I stopped for a second and that was like, I thought to myself, man, she don't even know me.
Wow.
Right. Because, usually when kids drop and fall, who they look for? They look for the nurturer, whoever they're used to, giving them hugs and kisses, make them feel good. She ran to her mother. I said, wow. So one day, we were downstairs. Now I brought that up to my wife. I was like, do you know that she came down here and she fell and she ran past me? She's like, yeah, because they don't know you because you're never home. She was like, yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. I'm like, what's up? And she was like, well, I've been telling you about leaving your job. You always making these excuses. So as of today, you're either going to leave your job or you're going to leave this marriage. So I started laughing. So I'm like, ha, ha, ha. She was like, I'm not joking. She's like, I'm doing this all by myself.
Wow.
I understand you're working. I understand you're bringing the money in, but I need more help. So you need to leave your business or leave your job. And she's like, you're not going to leave your business. That's what she said. You're not leaving your business. So she made the decision for me. So I said, okay, cool. I'll leave my job. But she's like, no. She took my phone out my pocket and gave it to me and called my boss and tell him you're putting in your 2 weeks. Right there on the spot, she made me call my boss, put my 2 weeks in. Right? I called him for my 2 weeks in. My plan was to go to work the next day and say, nah, I was just joking, bro. Don't, my wife put me on the spot. She told me straight up, she said, look, when you go to work tomorrow, you better, pretty much stand on what you said that you put in your 2 weeks, whatever. So when I went to the job, I was a supervisor at my job, right? So pretty much they were like, we don't want you to leave. What can we do to make you stay? Can we throw more money? So they started offering me more money, all this stuff. So I came home, I said, look, babe, they offered me this. She's like, I don't care what they offer you. I need you home. She's like, it doesn't make no sense. You're working 5 days, you're working all these hours, and then you're going on Saturday and make more money. Why don't you just stay home during the week and make more money on the weekends? Or you could do that full time.
Yes.
And when she said that, I was like, again, I'm still not processing it because, again, we were raised, get a job, get education, go get a job, get a job, get a job. So I remember the first day I went to my job and I told him, I said, hey, look, I'm leaving. So a couple weeks passed, I ended up leaving, right? I remember the first day I came downstairs into the kitchen and I was so scared. Like when I say I was scared, she got up, everybody got dressed and went to school. I took my kids to school. She went to work and I was scared to death. And I'm like, man, how do I do this? What am I supposed to do? So I remember I was downstairs in the kitchen and I called her. I said, this was like the Tuesday, right? So the Monday, I just slept all day Monday because I'm like, I'm off. Let me catch up. Tuesday, I called her. I said, yo, I said, I don't know if this is a good idea. Like I left a pretty good job. And she said something to me up until today. It was the simplest thing she ever said to me. But it gave me I corrected myself right in the spot. You know what she said to me? She said, if this doesn't work, you could just get another job. I said, okay, yeah. Right. And by that time, then she was like, in the meantime, why don't you just do something like clean up, take the garbage out, like get a routine. And every day I would get up, I would clean, I would clean the kitchen up, clean up the bedroom, whatever, clean up the kids' bedroom. So I was home playing house husband. And no lie, it took me 2 days. I remember on the third day, I got a phone call. And the guy was like, oh, you picked up. I'm not used to you picking up. I thought you was at work. And I was like, oh, no, I'm doing this full time now. He's like, oh, you're doing it full time now? Okay, cool. Within a week, I was back to being busy as if I was still working my job. So by the second week, my phone was ringing off the hook because everybody started telling everybody, oh, he's doing it full time. He's doing it full time. I had a guy that called me and said he only did business with me because I was good at what I did, but he didn't like the fact that I had a job and he could only reach me on the weekends. That's why he never referred me to nobody else. He started referring me to everybody. Within 2 weeks, I was back being comfortable. I made more money in 30 days than I made the entire 30 days I've been working. And that year, I made more money in that first year than I made ever since I was working a job. So it was the best decision that we ever made. Let me say we. It's really her, but it's the best decision we ever made. So it was amazing. And she put her foot down and said, look, I'm not doing it no more. You either, you're gonna do this business thing, and it was the best decision. Like I don't regret. It's not a day that I wake up and I said I regret leaving my job to do this full time. So yeah, that's how she got me she pushed me down this road pretty much.
And that's so inspirational on so many levels because yes, you're right. We have been brought up with the mentality to go to school, get a job, work 40 years, retire, and receive 40% of our income and try to live on. Yeah, good
Yep.
luck with that. But yeah, we have to take that leap of faith and
Mm-hmm.
just have that belief and trust in God that things will work themselves out for our
Mm-hmm.
good. And once we truly start to believe in that, then those dreams will start to manifest in our lives. And I'm just so grateful to your wife that she pushed you to
Mm-hmm.
make that choice. Well, she didn't push you, she gave you an ultimatum.
Yeah, yeah. She said either,
Yeah,
us or them.
right. But whatever it takes, for us to come out of that comfort zone and overcome those fears. Because yes,
Hmm.
like you said, it is a fear.
Oh
And
yeah.
anything that is new unto us, there is going to be a bit of a fear factor. But we have to know that, and just tell ourselves that I'm going to be great in what I'm doing, and just, depend on the guidance of the Lord to lead you through it, and He's going to prosper you and pave the way. So yeah, I'm just so glad for you and grateful for you, brother.
I
And
appreciate you.
look what has turned out in your business. So yeah,
Yeah. It's
amazing.
crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah, because if you would have told me, if you'd have told me that I was gonna end up having my own business and these other businesses and all these things going on, I'd have been like, ah. I mean, I knew I was gonna do something, but I didn't think I was gonna do, I was gonna do it this big. So it's crazy. It's crazy when I think about it.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yes, a great experience, I must say. But yeah, greatly appreciate you, my brother. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
definitely appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me on. This was amazing.
Yes,
Always
Absolute
amazing.
pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
yes,
Looking
always.
forward to part two.
yes,
Yeah. Definitely. We got to do it. We got to do it because I got a lot more, a lot more.
Yes.
okay.
Definitely
Yeah.
to do that.
All right, so there you have it, family. We're going to put it in the books, and we're going to schedule Mr. Dwayne the Credit Man Reid to come back at a future
Hmm.
date and share some more tips with us on how you can restore and build up your credit.
Hmm.
So we're going to get ready to close out this segment for today. So thanks once again, Dwayne. We thank you so
Hmm.
much for joining us. Just stay in the background for a little bit, and we're going to
Okay.
conversate with you as soon as we log off.
Got you.
All right. So yes, yeah. Wow, awesome segment, Christine. A lot of information that we were able to gather this evening.
And help some folks. Absolutely. If you want to like and share this broadcast, you'll be doing someone a favor. Lots of tips from Dwayne the Credit Man. I'll see you next week on What's Holding You Back.
Mm,
Your homework is to check your credit score.
there you
Like
go.
your credit score, and to like and share this broadcast. I want to thank everyone for coming once again, and we'll see you next week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what's holding you back? My name is Christine Allen from Clear Ambitions, Mentors and Speakers. If you need someone to host your next event, come on and connect with Rob and I. Happy to host, to moderate live and direct at your next conference.
Absolutely.
Rob?
Yes. So once again, we just want to thank each and every one of you for joining the broadcast. We
Mhm.
hope that you had all of your questions answered, and if not, you can still post your comments and questions in the comments section, and we will reach out to Mr. Dwayne, or you can visit his website or his Instagram page and ask those questions as well, and we will get those questions answered for you. So, if you have not already done so, we ask that you please subscribe to both our YouTube channels. Christine's YouTube channel is Clear Ambitions, and my YouTube channel is Rob McCray Networking. So, on behalf of Christine Allen from Clear Ambitions, my name is Rob McCray from the Business Building Network. We thank you so much for joining us and look forward to seeing you next week on the next edition of What's Holding